Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. A little fun project today. Shannon, a viewer, sent this in to me, asked me what I could do. The reel was kind of tied up and binding and was wondering if it was even making any sense to do it. It's a Mohawk. The number on it is a 1645. It's one of the simplest designs that is out there. I used to call these dime store reels or hardware store reels. These are reels that were sold in the 40s and the 50s, usually attached to a little keen pole. Pond reel. It doesn't have a lot of capacity. It does have a level wind function to it. And quite honestly, their day came and went. It was a direct drive reel. There was no drag system in this. There was no free spool release. They went both ways. And this one was having a little bit of a struggle, basically because it was a bone dry reel. Well, I went ahead and put it back, took it apart and put it back together, and runs nice and smooth and can go fishing right now. And then I thought afterwards I should have done the video on it. So I'll show you how I did it. And, understanding that it's already been worked on, there's nothing that needs to be repaired on this. But if you find one of these in a flea market, they're generally worth about $5 or $10. There are some out there that are very collectible. This one's just, you kind of run-of-the-mill, what I call a dime store reel. But let's just take it apart, show you what it's all about. Very simple design. You really do come to appreciate simplicity when you do a lot of these. 2 screws are all that's holding this reel together, basically. I'm going to take the screw off the side plate and show you what's inside. 2 little ones. I'm actually using a micro screwdriver because the slot on these screws, as well as the screws themselves, are pretty small. It's almost like this was a piece of jewelry. That's the first one. And then I put them into my parts tray, and you notice that I have a protective glove on the hand that kind of does a lot of the work with the grease and that, just to keep that stuff off. So here we go. Those are the 2 screws that are out. We take this apart, and you can see inside now, of course, it's been lubed and oiled since. This is a direct drive system. We have a little cavity here. That's for some grease for the end of the spool. Take the spool out in a moment. The big gear drives the level wind, and the small gear drives the spool. So when we put these 2 together, here's your level wind drive, and here's your spool drive, and that's about as simple as it can get. Take the spool out. Spool has the drive on this side, and has the click mechanism on the other side. And if you look in the back, we have the cavity that holds the grease, and we have the click mechanism. And, the click mechanism is operated by this little button, and when it's engaged like that, it'll click, and when it's pulled back, it won't. Very simple. On the level wind side, then, we have the level wind line guide, we have the level wind worm gear, and it's all just held in like that. It's very simple. You can take the gear that drives the level wind off of that, and you can pull it through and see how easy that actually sets up. So I'm just going to put that back, and surprisingly, if you look in the back, that level wind gear is just hanging in a hole in the back plate of the reel. There's nothing fancy going on there, just a place to make it stationary. And then, of course, I've greased under that little gear. It's got a D shape on it so that it doesn't spin. The gear goes back in. We've got plenty of grease on both sides of the spool. Again, I kind of did this ahead of time. Wasn't thinking about doing the video, and then I thought at the last moment it would be a good idea. So now we have the level wind that's driving. We have the spool gear with the grease on it. We have the cavity with some grease on it for the end of the spool. We have the main gear and the secondary gear driving there. All we have to do is line this up. There's 2 holes in the side plate where these are going to lock in, and then there's 2 holes for the screws, and that's it. So there's a lot of things that I talk about on this channel in terms of keeping reels fishing and the like, so we're going to write this one up to keeping it fishing in terms of why we went ahead and repaired this reel or greased it up. But a lot of the time it's just about the education itself. It's about going in and understanding how fishing reels are made, and why the design is what the design was made to be, and why it's effective, or in many cases when you see broken reels, why it's ineffective. So if I was to find this one at a flea market for a couple of bucks, I would buy it just to take it apart and say, gee, what's going on inside there? And, you know, learn from that. But in this case, Shannon was kind enough to send it up to me and asked me if I could lube it, so I did. And here we go. And this is a strong reel. Again, there's nothing hard about this one from a technology standpoint, and sometimes when they're not complicated, they don't break because there's nothing to break on them. So, lessons learned. I thought I would share that with you, and that was the purpose of this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have one of these, take it apart and put some grease on it, and I'll probably be lucky enough to see you get that thing back fishing as well. So this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thank you for watching.